Hi, so today we're going to be talking about rates. Rates are a special type of ratio, and we're going to be talking about how they relate to ratios and the difference. I recommend doing a split screen so that way you could watch this video and fill out the pages in your packet at the same time. So we're starting with the definition of rates and unit rates, and we're going to fill in the blanks here to find out what exactly rates are. So we see a blank is a ratio that compares two quantities with different kinds of units. That blank is just going to be the word rate. A rate is a ratio that compares two quantities with different units. As you watch this video, please feel free to pause the video if you need more time to write. You can take all the time you need. So an example of a rate right below that is 100 words per 2 minutes. So you can see that this is different than a ratio because these two units can't be converted to one another. You can't convert words to minutes, so you have to keep them as different units, and that's what makes a rate special. Also, the fraction bar is pronounced as per instead of to when it comes to rates. With a ratio, we say the word to, 3 to 5. But with rates, we say the word per instead. That just whoever made up the math decided that's the way it's going to be. Other rates that are really common are speed limits. So if you hear like 50 miles per hour, that's a type of rate because it's miles and hours being compared. We're going to go to the next definition now. When a rate is simplified so that it has a blank, it is called a unit rate. So that blank is going to be denominator of 1. So when a rate is simplified so it has a denominator of 1, it is called a unit rate. Go ahead and pause if you need more time to write that. So what this means is that if you look at the example above, we know that this person maybe can read 100 words per 2 minutes. That's not really helpful information. When you hear 100 words per 2 minutes, your brain might automatically calculate how many words this person can read in 1 minute because that's more useful in everyday life. So a rate could have any number on the bottom, and in this case, there's 2 minutes on the bottom. A unit rate, which is much more common, has to have the bottom number being 1. So we're going to talk about how to convert 100 words per 2 minutes into a unit rate, because we want to know how many words this person can read in 1 minute. So to find a unit rate, write two quantities as a blank. So step 1 is going to be to write two quantities as a rate. And in the example, you can see that they've done that down below actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this step in red, and then I'm going to highlight the step below that matches with it in red, so I know that those two go together. Step 2 is going to be to divide both the numerator and the denominator by the denominator. So whatever number is on the bottom, no matter what that number is, you divide the top and the bottom by that number. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to highlight that in orange so I can match it up with this step right here. So we see that 2 was on the denominator, so we're going to divide 100 by 2 and divide 2 by 2. 100 divided by 2 is 50. So 50 words. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. So 1 minute. So this will create a denominator of 1, which is a single unit. I'm going to highlight that in yellow. And I'm going to match that up. That is one way to write a final answer. So it could say 50 words over 1 minute. You would still say it with the word per though, 50 words per minute. Another option is to write it out in words. So or 50 words per minute. So look how they have it all in a single line. So I'm going to highlight that in green. Match that up. That's another option. So either yellow or green could be your final answer. So we started with 100 words per 2 minutes. Great, it's just not that useful. So we converted it to 50 words per minute, which is a unit rate. So this is a rate because the denominator is something other than 1. And both of these are unit rates because it's per a single minute. Let's keep going. I want you to try number 1 below, and you can use a calculator, and then pause the video while you're trying it, and unpause the video when you're ready to check your work. All right, hopefully you are coming back from pausing the video and you've already tried number 1. So let's take a look at that. So following the steps above, the required work says that we have to write the rate first. You don't have to write the word rate. I'm just doing that for us. So the rate, it says, what is his average speed in miles per hour? That also tells us the order that we're going to be writing the units. Miles has to go first. So I'm going to write 24 miles per 3 hours. Now, step 2, the orange step, says I have to divide them both by whatever's on the bottom. That's 3. 24 divided by 3 is 8 miles, and you still write the unit. 3 divided by 3 is 1 hour. I could leave my answer like this, or I could write 8 miles per hour. It's a common abbreviation, MPH, miles per hour, so it's okay to do that. Pause the video and try number 2, and unpause the video when you're ready to check it. All right, we're coming back. Hopefully you just paused the video. I realize I forgot to label this for you as a unit rate. You don't have to label that. I'm just doing that for us. So in number 2, I'm going to show you guys a rate, and then I'm going to end up with a unit rate. So the first step of the required work is to write a rate. And I see in the question it says, how much does 1 pound cost? So they didn't say the word per anywhere, but I do see 1 pound. That means pound is going to be on the bottom because that's the one that's going to have 1 in part of my answer. So I know that I need 5 pounds to be on the bottom because I'm going to end up with 1 pound in my answer. So the top is going to be 35. That's a rate. Now I'm going to convert it to a unit rate by dividing them both. Let's see what step 2 says. By the denominator. The orange step says I have to divide them both by the denominator. So divide by 5, and that equals $7 per 1 pound. And I could also say it as $7 per pound. Something that's really important about unit rates is that you have to have 2 units in the answer. So here I have the dollar sign and I have pounds. In the previous problem, I had miles and I had hours. You have to have 2 units in your answer. Next, we're going to move on to number 3. Question 3 says, the cost of different sizes of orange juice are shown below in the table. What container costs the least per ounce? So I see a clue there that it says per ounce. Per tells us what is going to be the second unit. So per ounce means ounces are going to be on the bottom. So for each one of these, we're going to write a rate and then find the unit rate. I'm going to do the first one with you, then have you do the rest of them on your own. A good rule of thumb is that even if we didn't know that ounces would be on the bottom, is that if you have a problem with money, money almost always goes on the top. So I'm going to set this up as $1.28, and notice how I have units in there. You have to have units over 16 ounces. I know money almost always goes on the top, and I also know that it said per ounce, so ounces has to be on the bottom because it said per ounce. So that's the rate, and then to find the unit rate, the cost per ounce, that's another clue. Cost per ounce tells us that cost is first. I'm going to divide both the top and the bottom by 16. And I'm going to get my calculator. I don't know if I have one installed on my home iPad, so I'm just going to use the calculator off to the side. So I'm doing 1.28 divided by 16. And I get 0.08. That's 8 cents. It's another way of saying 8 cents. So I have the dollar sign there, and then it's going to be per 1 ounce, or I could just write ounce. So I didn't have a lot of room to write it in there, but this is the same thing as saying $0.08, which is 8 cents, per 1 ounce. I just wrote it in a straight line instead. It's the same thing. Please pause the video and fill out the rest of this table. Come back when you're ready to check your work for the next 3 rows. All right, hopefully you've finished the next 3 rows and you're coming back from pausing the video. I'm going to go over the answers now. So the second one, the rate would be $192 over 32 ounces. I divide them, the top and the bottom, both by 32. And that equals 6 cents per 1 ounce. So that's another way of writing it. I could write it either way, all the way across or in a fraction format. The next one is, I need a new color, got to keep it fancy, $2.56 per 64 ounces. So I'm dividing them both by 64. So $2.56 divided by 64 is 4 cents per ounce. So I write that as $0.04. That means 4 cents. Now I have one last one, and this one's going to be $3.36 per 96 ounces. Divide them both by 96. So $3.36 divided by 96 is actually really close to my previous answer, 0.035 per ounce. That's a little less than 4 cents per ounce. Now, usually I would round it to 4 cents. The 5 rounds the 3 up to 4 because money has 2 decimal places. But I'm actually, in this case, going to keep it as the 0.035, and I'll tell you why in a second. If I look back at the original question, the question says, which container costs the least per ounce? So I don't want my third and fourth answers to be exactly the same because I have to decide which container is the answer to this question, which container costs the least per ounce. So I'm going to keep it unrounded. I want you to look through the choices here, and you could pause the video in a second and decide which container you would want to buy, which container costs the least per ounce. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to hear the answer. Hopefully you've decided which container costs the least per ounce. What I like to do when I'm comparing decimals is to write them lined up with each other. So the first decimal was 8 cents per ounce, so I'm going to write it like that. The second decimal was 6 cents per ounce. I'm going to write it like that. The third decimal is 4 cents per ounce. And the fourth decimal was 0.035. Now I notice in the ones place, they're all the exact same number, so I can't compare based on that. In the tens place, they're all the exact same number. I can't compare based on that. The hundredths place, though, has different numbers, so this is how I'm going to decide which one is the answer. I want the smallest number in this hundredths place, and that's going to be the last one. So the answer to which container costs the least is container number 4, or the last container. That would be the answer to this question. We're going to switch over to the other page now, which is page 50, and I'm going to show you what these types of questions are asking. So there's 2 different types of questions here. Question 1, gives you what's called a double number line. And you can see it's a double number line because there's two different number lines and each one has a different unit. They want you to write a rate that represents the situation. So there's something to do with kilograms and cans here. You can pick any one of these. I'm going to pick something random. I'm going to pick this one. You could have picked any one of them though. So a rate that would describe this situation, I'm going to write up here so I can write bigger, would be 15 kilograms per 6 cans. So notice how 15 goes with kilograms and 6 goes with cans. Pause the video and write a different rate for problem 1. Hopefully you're coming back from pausing the video. You could have written 5 kilograms for 2 cans. You could have written 10 kilograms for 4 cans. You could have written 20 kilograms for 8 cans or 25 kilograms for 10 cans. You wouldn't want to use 0, 0 because it doesn't really give us any information. Number 2 will be similar. Next, I'm going to show you how to do number 3. So it says write a unit rate for the situation. This is exactly what we did on the other page. The first rule is to start by writing the rate. So $44 per 4 days. Then you divide them both by whatever's on the denominator. So divide by 4, divide by 4. Here's our unit rate. $11 per day. That's the answer. So it's required to write a rate and to write a unit rate. You could write your unit rate as a fraction, or you could write it in this format, $11 per day. But what's important is to make sure you have 2 units, dollars and day. You have to show both units. If you're running out of room, you use the scissors tool and shrink, get it right next to the problem. So the rest of the page will be the same. You can pause the video and you could go ahead and watch go ahead and fill out the rest of the page and then just keep going. The bottom of the page is the exact same thing. When it says decide whether the rates are equivalent, you're going to find 2 different unit rates. You're going to find the unit rate for the first one and the unit rate for the second one. And you're going to see, are they exactly the same or are they not exactly the same? All right, good luck with that.